Hey, welcome back to another episode of LFG, the unfiltered podcast for franchise education. My co-host here, Leanne Caruso. Leanne, tell us, how was your week?
My week was pretty good. I got a lot done. Pretty uneventful, but I got a lot done.
A lot done, like as in work? I mean, what
Yeah.
is, a lot of people think of little different things. Like, what's a lot done? You know, I
Yeah.
got to go on vacation. I worked a lot. I spent time with my kids. I mean, that's a lot,
I
right?
did not get to work. I did not get to go on vacation, but I'm going on vacation soon. And no, I just got a lot done. It feels like it was a very productive week, and that was good.
Oh, good. That's
Yeah.
I heard you were at Gen Jet.
Joan Jet.
Joan
Joan
Jet.
Jet.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know. I went and saw Alanis Morissette, who's one of your fellow Canadians, and she's amazing.
Woohoo.
And but Joan Jett opened for her, and she's in her 70s, and she was phenomenal.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Cue
You
that
even know
music. What is that song?
I love rock and roll. You even know that song? Are you even that old?
Yes, I am. I am. I do know that. Is that I mean, I've heard it on the radio and I don't know. Is it like at baseball games or something? Anyways. Yes, so this week we have Michelle Rowan, President and COO of Franchise Business Review, and Courtney Stillings, one of my favorites. Michelle, you're one of my favorites too. Uh, Courtney Stillings, Vice President of Growth at Franchise Business Review. Leanne, tell us a little bit about some of the highlights.
Yes, so we've already recorded that segment. So Michelle and Courtney have a lot of great things to share with us today. One of them is how to retain top talent. You know, they talk a lot about franchisee satisfaction and validation, but also they have a big effort towards workplace environment and how keeping employees also satisfied. So that's really great, and getting feedback from employees. And they share some trends on workplace culture. And then we also talk about franchisee validation and satisfaction. And Michelle actually shares something that I think a lot of franchisors do that is illegal, and I don't think they know about it. And so that was kind of eye-opening to me. I had no idea. Did you know about it?
I think I heard about it. I didn't know it was like officially illegal. But when she confirmed that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But I was
So
more
keep listening
thinking,
if you want to know what that is.
yeah. I was thinking more about the I love rock and roll. While you're talking, that's what's going on in my brain.
Wow,
No,
you zoned out.
I'm not zoned out. I'm zoned in.
Zoned out.
Zoned in with you. No,
Wait, no,
it
we didn't ask about your week. Why
no, I
and
was
why are you?
I was gonna say it would be nice if we cued that music. Can we
Oh,
cue that in with the
no,
text?
we're not that cool.
Oh,
We
okay.
don't have that capability.
Um, yeah, my week was awesome. I don't you know I actually maybe I am zoned out. I can't really think right now because I am fasting. I went to the doctor yesterday for like the first time in 7 years, and she was like, "Oh boy." No, no,
Oh
no,
boy.
not really, but I am fasting because I have to go do a couple of tests and some stuff. So if I am a little airheadish, then don't mind me. I mean,
That
when am I airheadish?
I think that's why you're grumpy though.
Grumpy. Wow.
I mean, you're a little on
Okay.
edge today.
Shots
Pew
fired.
pew, pew pew. All right, let's go.
I don't think I've ever been called grumpy in my life, Leanne.
No,
Grumpy. Okay,
you're
fine, fine. I'll
you're
take it.
you're
Fine.
hardly a grumpy person,
I'm
except maybe a
fine.
little bit.
No, no, no,
All
no, no,
right.
no, no, no. Try and take it back now.
Here's what's growing on. Let's move on. This seg- This segment is sponsored by Franchise Assembly, one of our favorite companies, a franchise events company bringing resources and education to franchise brands and people. It's a tongue twister. All right, let's talk about what's going on. So, Reshift Media, one of our favorite, we have a lot of favorites, don't we? Reshift Media, they presented at Let's Grow in Dallas, and they're going to present again in Toronto and Dallas again next year. They had a standing room only presentation, but they recently released a franchise development 2024 trends and forecast report. It was actually pretty interesting. They mentioned things about the correlation between interest rates and franchise um, becoming a franchisee. So basically, when the Fed raises interest rates, the interest in franchising pauses. It's probably pretty obvious. And then they go into that there's two main times of year that people are looking for a franchise. So if you think that it's about to get slow, it is. Quarter 1 is one of the best months for selling a franchise. There's large search volume and a propensity for people to convert, which is good. I think we all know that. The second important period of the year is Quarter 4. So there's a high volume of search intent, and that seems to be trending year over year. And good news is Q1 was up 12% this year. So hopefully that's reflecting in everybody's franchise sales. In this report, they also talk about click-through rates and conversion rates on digital marketing. So check it out. They do anticipate that October, November, December to be better after we have a slow summer. So franchise competition leads continues to be really high, and they're seeing an increase in cost, but the positive is there's higher searcher volume. So I would highly recommend go find it on LinkedIn, reach out to Reshift, our friends Kirk and Steve, and it's a good report.
Love it. Yeah, and their presentation at Let's Grow was fantastic. Shout out to Kirk and Steve. So what I pulled out this week, Leanne, was news from Dogtopia. Now, if we were a little bit techie for those that are watching on YouTube and not on Spotify, we would cue my Shiba Inu emoji. Only because I love my dog more than life, and I'm sure a lot of people do. But yeah, so the U.S. Dogtopia Foundation has helped sponsor more than 500 service dogs for veterans. Since the foundation's inception, Dogtopia daycares have collectively achieved this milestone by raising more than $3 million, underscoring Dogtopia's ongoing commitment to supporting the brave men and women who have served. I think that is fantastic. I love that they are assisting with veterans, and I actually see those dogs all the time. No, I mean, not the ones with veterans, but service animals, and half the time I think it's fucking bullshit. The girl with the thing in her purse and whatever, and the service dog. Give me a break. At the same time, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do that to my
Oh
dog.
my God.
Obviously, the ones for veterans is not. So shout out to Dogtopia.
Don't be that guy.
I am not. I am not. Listen, we're being unfiltered, Leanne.
But I can totally see you walking around with your Shiba Inu in the airport. Precious
Love
girl that
her.
she is.
Oh my
I think you
gosh.
love her more than your kids.
Relax. So, yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too much off topic, but I've actually thought about it because my dog is around the 50-pound mark, and I'm like, can she come on the airplane with me? Can she not? Anyways, tell us
Don't do
about
it.
Yum, Leanne.
So I'm actually proud to sit on the board for the Yum Center for Global Franchise Excellence. And we just had a board meeting yesterday. So they announced that they are now taking applications for scholarships for their various programs. They have 3 graduate, 5 undergraduate, 9 boot camp, which you can earn CFE credits for, and 4 student trips to the IFA convention. These are sponsored by the Board of Advisors. And they're really, really great programs. They've actually doubled their participation in them in this past year with their collaboration with the IFA. So if you're interested in getting a scholarship to any of these programs, especially to the boot camp for those of you already in franchising, go to business.louisville.edu to learn more and apply.
Woohoo! And shout out to our friends, Leanne.
Yes, shout out to Dr. Kathy Gosser, who is just an amazing bright light and joy in this world. And she has launched that program in collaboration with Yum and Wendy Williams, who is just, Wanda Williams, who is just a phenomenal woman. She spoke at IFA and she's just incredible. So they've just done really great things with that program. I'm super proud to be involved on that board.
Love it. All right. So we're going to have a test for you, Leanne, after this next one. Are you ready? I'm going to give you 30
No.
seconds. You're going to tell me why this is. So almost 58% of aspiring business owners either agree or strongly agree that right now is a good time to start a business, right? With optimism about the conditions ahead. Franchise Insights compiles a monthly index, the Small Business Startup Sentiment Index. The latest survey was conducted May 2024, Which of these factors will have the biggest impact in the next 6 months on your decision to start a business? The top three answers: 57.8% said funding or access to credit, 24.9% said economic conditions, and 19.3% said political changes. What do you think is the biggest factor, Leanne?
Well, you just told me. So this is an easy test.
But yeah, no, I mean, totally right with the changing of the guard soon.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Well, political climate is just, you know, crazy anyway. So that's always a big year. And with interest rates rising, that always has a cause and effect in franchising. So hopefully it doesn't have a negative one, but I know
yeah,
it causes pause for some people.
no, most definitely. So, another quick little announcement, though. I know we've kind of announced this on LinkedIn and all over the place. So, I don't think we officially announced it on the podcast. Is that registration is now open for Let's Grow Canada? We're super happy to be able to bring the conference north of the border to Canada. It's happening November 6th and 7th. The conference is presented by Architect. And we're super also excited to be partnering with National Event Management, the franchise show, who I, of course, work with. Um, this is going to change things leaps and bounds. National Event Management, for those of you that don't know, run the largest circuit of franchise trade shows across North America, literally dealing with over 1,000 franchise brands in both the US and Canada. And so, if we want to educate franchisors, and I don't mean that negatively, but give them continued education. And I mean, who doesn't like continued growth? So if we want to partner and bring more franchisors, who better to do it with than the franchise show that literally deals with over 1,000 franchise brands? Okay, and finally, so if you want to share what's going on in your world, please send us any nuggets, information, anything you think that will be relevant. You can email it to podcast@franchiseassembly.com.
All right. So we're about to get into our franchise royals. Before we do, this segment is sponsored by Tenet Financial Group. Unlock your franchising potential with Tenet Financial Group, where they treat you individually, crafting tailored funding packages to suit your unique situation. They are here to fund your franchise so you can focus on growing your dreams. From their innovative Rob's 401k funding to SBA loans, leasing, and a range of other loan products, they are your partner in successfully funding your franchise. Visit tenetfinancialgroup.com today and experience the difference. Tenet Financial Group, your trusted partner where franchise funding is simple, transparent, and honest. All right, Franchise Royals is where we each pick someone inspiring who's doing something notable in life and business. Michael, who is your Franchise Royal this week? Dun, 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 dun.
So, I actually did see this on LinkedIn. Of course, she is a franchise queen, and I would always choose her as a franchise royal. But I saw that Lynn Shelton is in business for 16 years, running her own firm. So, Lynn, congratulations on that. Of course, in addition to your 16 years in business, I know you've been a strong supporter of the franchise show. You have actually been on the show floor longer than me, which is great. Coming to many, many shows for well over a decade, supporting both franchisors and franchisees. So wanted to give you accommodation for that. And then, of course, Hello Mastermind. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, you can see my shirt here. For joining on again as a sponsor of Hello Mastermind, which franchisors come together from marketing and from development and brainstorm and talk and do workshops and really engage in growth and peer advisory. And so you supporting that just shows how much you care about the industry. So big shout out to Lynn Shelton.
Yes, we love Lynn. Okay, so my franchise royal is Paul Pickett, and he is celebrating his 60th birthday on July 4th. So lots of fireworks and celebration for Paul. Paul, love you so much. He's just such a force in franchising, and he's loved by so many. And hope you have the best birthday. And we love you, Paul.
Woohoo! Happy birthday, Paul. Wow. I mean, I got to say this. I don't even know. I mean, July 4th and Paul Pickett's 60th birthday. I really don't know which one will be bigger.
Right. That's very true. Very true.
That's awesome. Definitely some fireworks there.
For sure.
Okay. So before we go and get on to the show and tell segment, here's a note from one of our favorite sponsors. Well, they're all our favorites. Show and Tell is brought to you by Northeast Color. Northeast Color specializes in brick and mortar branding solutions for the multi-unit and franchise industries. They have years of experience producing branded interior and exterior signage for national chains of all sizes and varieties. All right, so without further ado, we are so excited. It is time for Show and Tell, the Showstoppers segment. Show and Tell, for those of you that don't know, our guests drop some franchise knowledge about their industry. In this case, franchisee satisfaction and workplace culture. Best practices, ideas, thought leadership, at least we hope. Today we have Michelle Rowan, President and COO of Franchise Business Review, and Courtney Stillings, Vice President of Growth at Franchise Business Review. Guys, we are so excited to have you on. Please tell us a bit about yourselves. Normally I would have a bio here, but I guess Leanne kind of slacked off this week. So tell us.
Courtney, you start.
I was going to say she didn't slack. We just don't need any introduction, Michael.
No, there you go.
Right? Like, let's go big or go home here. Leah knows
That's right.
So I obviously, like I said, Courtney Stillings, VP of Growth at Franchise Business Review. I have been having fun and kicking butt with FBR for about 3.5 years, which is crazy because I was like, I feel like I just started. Yeah, I've been here forever in the industry because this industry is amazing. And I think the funniest part about me is I fell into franchising with FBR thinking that it was my first role, but I actually worked for franchise Hilton down in North Carolina when I was a student in East Carolina University, and I just didn't even know it. So my franchising started a lot sooner than I thought, and now I'm in it for real, and it's an amazing journey. But yeah, we're happy to be here and working side by side with Michelle and the FBR team.
And
And I'm
congratulations
Michelle
on your
Rowan.
recent promotion. Sorry, Michelle.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you.
She's one of our first franchise royals.
I did. Yeah, I got that shout out last week and I was like, oh my God, what does this mean now? I came into the FBR office and there was no red carpet rollout, but that's okay.
Weird.
It's better to be on the Franchise Royals. Hey, because we have two websites. We have the Franchise Royals, which will eventually, if you've been on there, you'll be on there. And then there's the other one, which is Franchise Freeloaders. That's the one you don't want to be on. So, we figure it out as we go along.
We know which list will be bigger.
Yeah.
Okay, Michelle, sorry.
Okay. I'm Michelle Rowan with Franchise Business Review, and I actually came on board here 18 years ago, almost 19 years ago, as the first full-time employee. It was my first role in franchising. And I came on as sales, and I'm now president and COO. So I've helped grow the team here. And I remember when I started that someone was like, in franchising, it takes 10 years for people to believe that you're really going to be here in the industry. And I was like, you guys are silly, but it's true. It is really true. It takes a lot of work to just get people to really trust you and know your brand. And I think that we've done that well here at FBR. Built a great team just here to help franchisors and suppliers and franchisees be the best they can be.
Love it. I mean, who doesn't know FBR?
Well, hopefully your listeners, we're going to educate them.
Right.
There you go.
Or re-educate too.
Re-educate them. Yeah. Yeah,
Re-educate.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Michael, I think everyone thinks they know us from our award side of what we do, but we do a lot of work around the operation side. So they might think they know FBR, but do they?
So true. So true.
Let's find out. There'll be a quiz at the end.
Yeah. All right. So, so I guess we're going to talk a bit about importance of franchisee satisfaction. Is that where we're going? Validation or?
Yeah, we can start there.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, what we try to do at FBR, and Courtney, I'll start, but you pipe in too, because you, I think, have been traveling the most this year so far and talking to people. But what we try to do is really educate franchisors on why it's important to have feedback from your franchise owners. We actually even offer out our questions on our standard survey to franchisors because we feel it's so important that they do this work, whether it's with us or whether it's internally. We don't work with brands until they have 10 franchisees on that side of the work that we do, but it's certainly valuable to ask these questions and kind of get that feedback from your whole brand as you're growing, even before 10. But the idea is when you get to 10, getting a look at what everybody thinks and using that data to help really educate candidates that you're talking to on what it's like to run the business from the franchisee's perspective. So this is not, you know, people, I said at the beginning, people know us more from the award side. We love celebrating franchisors that get great ratings from franchisees, but we don't call out the brands that have low satisfaction because our hope is they're using this data internally to get things right before they continue on that path to grow more. Because it's just now I think people get it more that a franchise call between a candidate and a franchisee that's in your system and a candidate will make or break every deal that you have on the table. So why go and spend all this money on recruiting when it's much harder now to hide from what your franchise owners are saying, or you can't just sell your way out of not supporting franchisees anymore. It used to be easier when we came on board, when Franchise Business Review came into the franchise space. I would make sales calls and franchisors would literally say to me, why would I ever want to ask my franchisees what they're thinking? Then I'd have to do something about it. And I was like, because they have a lot of money invested. And because if they're successful, you'll be more successful. Like it was a really, a strange objection at the time. I think the internet really sped that up, in that if you're not going to ask that information, your franchisees are happy to share that unfiltered perspective of what they think about you out to the world. So you better know what they're going to say.
Yeah, and they're always talking. Like you're bringing these business owners into your organization, and they have their own brain, and they're going to say, you know, what they're feeling, and so capturing it in a way that makes sense for the franchisor is so important, because we work with, you know, 370 brands that use this in their planning processes, in their goals, you know, their rocks if they do EOS. But also why it's so important, and being in front of a lot of these candidates and going to IFE or going to these conferences, is that the biggest thing is that people are looking to do more due diligence. They want to do all of their research before signing on the dotted line. And if they're investing all of this money and they really want to have a passion and align with a company or a brand, is that they need to know what's happening before behind the you know, the red carpet, not the red carpet, the staging. They want to know the ins and outs of the brand. And to do that, the fastest way to do that is that validation piece, is understanding, you know, what are those franchisees thinking and feeling? How were they at 2 years and now at 5 years, you know, and really understanding the training and support, and all the way down to the leadership and the core values. So it's just really nice to be able to deliver that in a way, and working with all these brands that want to do better by their franchisees, but then also bring that to their candidates. And I think so many more people are asking for that. And it's a breath of fresh air, because we get to also talk about that. And as you can tell, everyone on our team, you know, especially Michelle and I and Eric and the rest of our team, we just have such passion of bringing that alive for those candidates, but then also giving that to the franchisors and the executive leadership to really raise the bar and say, hey, you know, this is what we're averaging, but how can we be excellent, and making sure that everyone has that support to succeed as a whole brand and not just two people.
So true. Sorry, go ahead. I was just saying, so it's crazy. If I was looking to buy a franchise, I mean, and just a little bit of common sense, hopefully you're going to invest, you know, 200, 500, $1 million. I would think, at least me, if I'm talking to a system and they're like, let's say they're a small, you know, emerging brand, and they have 10, you know, franchisees, and they said, okay, here, yeah, for sure, call these 3. I would be calling everybody else. So it's totally, I mean, it's so important. I mean, if I'm going to give you $500,000, I'm going to talk to a whole bunch within the system. So yeah, I mean, common sense. I think it's so important. Sorry,
Yeah, Michael, and that's really where Eric came up with the idea to create FBR, because it's great that you want to do that. good luck getting all 10 on the phone. Like they are so busy. And if
Yeah.
you're in growth mode, you're asking your franchisees to spend a lot of time validating. So we're not trying to replace those phone calls. We just want to give them that whole perspective and not the ones that you're directed to by the franchisor. PS, that's illegal. And also just letting them know too, like, this is what it looks like as a whole. Still talk to people. But if you do that, if you're a candidate and you call and the first franchisee is like, I hate these people, they do nothing to help me, you might be talking to a real outlier. That's not the perspective of everybody. But if you're about to invest $1 million and that's the first call you make in here, that's really going to throw up a lot of red flags. So trying to give the candidate perspective of what the whole community looks like, and then coaching them on questions to ask franchisees to really get at the stuff that we're not asking about. How much money can I make? How fast can I make it? But also too, asking the franchise candidate to understand what kind of effort is the franchisee putting into their business. Are they working the system? And when things are not working in the market or with your franchisor, how are they both working to work through that issue? And that's really what it is that the people that are on the top of our awards list, they are not people that are guessing. They're not doing everything that the franchisees are asking, but they're working with their franchisees to understand what do they need to make their business stronger or grow, and how are they working through kind of that ebb and flow of the relationship. It's not always going to be great. They don't score well across the board. There can be areas that they're not scoring well. But again, it's that realistic, what is it like to run this business? Because running a business is hard. And also, what are we doing well? What do we need to celebrate that in our franchise community that we're really doing well, and why you would want to come and be a part of this story?
Yeah.
So-
And sorry, Leanne, just to give a little context too. So for anyone who's not aware of our awards, and or they might see it and see the, the pretty logos, but it is Franchisee Satisfaction Award. So you can't just pay to be on our awards list, right? So it is really earned through doing that work. If you score well or high enough on that survey in the eyes of your franchisees, if they're grading you high, that's what lands you on our awards list. And so it's just so awesome to see that with brands that we work with, that maybe they survey with us the first couple of times, first couple of years, and they don't, make it onto the awards list. But that third year, fourth year, they work their butt off looking at those lowest rated areas, or really understanding those, like Michelle was saying, those ebbs and flows. So that is an earned spot. And that's something that we help to obviously use that as a bragging point, but use that as a way, again, as that validation and saying, hey, these are brands that you need to look at first that are doing it right. And so many more candidates are looking at that as a way, it's an earned award that they want to be a part of.
So I was just on the show floor in one of our franchise shows just yesterday, and I saw it on display. FBR, hopefully they're still on the award list. 360 Clean was displaying your thing there, and I'm like, oh, that's our friends at FBR.
Yeah.
Just yesterday.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I love it.
What's really cool with those shows, Michael, because you're there too, like not a lot of brands that are on the floor have that award. So it's also a great differentiator to just get candidates asking about it and talking about it, because it isn't, we've worked with 1,200 brands over the last 19 years, but 370 in the last 12 months. So I think that's too, we're seeing franchisors, I think we're going to talk about this too, but I don't want to say making excuses, but having reasons to allow more time in between their survey work, which has been interesting this year to see that they're choosing a little bit more time in between for what they feel like is a very valid reason.
So before we go to our next question, I want to go back to something you said. You said, P.S. by the way, it's illegal. I don't think a lot of brands know this, especially new ones. Can you go back to?
Absolutely. What's even worse, Leanne, is that I get a lot of calls from franchisees that are unhappy in their brands, and they're asking me for direction on what they can do. And we are not a pro franchisor or a pro franchisee company. I know that there's a lot of lawyers that take like which side we want that relationship to work. And we hope that that is worked out between the brand before it gets to an escalation where there's legal involved. So when I'm talking to franchisees or franchisors that are having a real hard time moving forward together, our counsel is always around things that they can try and do before it gets to that point. So I just want to clarify that. But it's amazing to me the amount of people that don't know this. So with the FTC guidelines around franchising, and all of the legal work that goes around a franchise system versus being a license versus being a business opportunity. Part of that is you cannot direct your franchisees to only speak to certain franchisees that are active in the business. So you are not allowed to direct them to only speak or limit them from talking to other partners in the system. That FDD, the franchise disclosure document, has to be given to every candidate that is looking to buy a franchise in the United States, and that they have access to the contact information for all the franchisees there. When I talk to franchisees and they tell me they did not know that, I talk to the set list that the franchisor gave me. Now, a franchisor can provide a list of people that they can connect with to say, these are people like you, or these are the reasons that I think you should talk to them. But if you are in franchise development, you should make it very clear they can call anybody they want that's in that system. So I think that is important because a lot of executives might not know that they're technically breaking a law by doing that. And also franchisees, when we have a project going, a franchisee will call and say, my franchisor has told me to only put good things on this survey and call them with any issues we're having. We'll shut the project down. And we'll also reach out to the corporate team and re-educate them. The purpose of this work, first and foremost, is for you to understand what your franchisees are thinking. If you go out and say, we're doing this project, but we want to win the award, do that. Guess what you're doing to that relationship? You're not strengthening it. Your franchisees are not feeling heard. They're not feeling that you're doing this for the way to understand where your opportunity is to make this brand better, both for your existing franchise owners and for your candidates. And so this is, I think, where we see the biggest drop in franchise satisfaction is when franchise systems are focused aggressively on growth. And it doesn't mean that you can't do that well, but when you are focused on growth, you really need to make sure that your franchisees understand how you still have your eye on their ball. And it's just like when you have your second child, your third child, you have to remember that that first child will have an inclination to say, but what about me? And where's my attention? And what am I getting? And I think it's an added hardship for franchisors because it's expensive to build your support structure before you grow into it. It's the right way to do it. But if you can't do it, you better be managing those expectations with your franchisees on how that structure is going to be pushed to its limits as you grow, and that the light at the end of the tunnel is we'll have better experts on our staff and we'll get to that point. But it's not okay to just say, well, we can't afford to put more support in, but we're focused on growth. It is a business decision, but don't try and hide it. You know, come clean with your franchisees and help them understand why that structure has to be a little stressed before it gets better.
So, Courtney, tell me about what's on the survey. Like, what kind of information are franchisors finding out about the franchisee's satisfaction or non-satisfaction?
Yeah, so we have different sections within the survey. One of my favorites is definitely looking at the training and support because I think that's a huge pillar of any franchise brand. And so with that training and support, we also have them grade, marketing and promotions, effective technology, even innovation, which is huge in the last, 18 months or so, especially around all AI and ChatGPT. But then also looking at their self-evaluation questions, right? How they think they're performing, which can be very subjective, but it's so great to have a pulse and understand, how do they think they're performing as a franchisee? And then really grading anything around the leadership. So culture, core values, and financial opportunity. So it really hits a lot of different points. And then obviously one of my favorites too, because it's all about community, is the franchisee community. And so understanding, how involved do you think you are as a franchisee, or how do you think your fellow franchisees are involved in a community? So yeah, those are the main points too. And then I think my favorite part too about it, Leanne, is that we give sections in the survey open text responses. And so that's where I think we find a lot of golden nuggets of truth, where it's like what's working, what's not. But these franchisees can really put out there, this is what's happening in our day-to-day, and looking through it and understanding, is there a reoccurring theme? It's not just one franchisee saying something, but now it's like a whole bunch of them saying, hey, our training and support is lacking within the first 6 months, of being with the brand, or how does this look like, whether market size, geographic size, all of that, or location. So yeah. those are just some of the main points of it. I think all of it's very beneficial, but there's definitely some high level things that you can look at to really move the needle throughout the whole organization.
Very cool.
Awesome.
And just to and definitely not to call anyone out, but out of 10, how many actually do go and tell their franchisees, hey, say this, that, and the other thing?
Oh, I think I've taken like 3 of those calls in the last 15 years. It's not, and we
Wow.
do a lot to coach our franchisors on how to communicate before we reach out to them and why we're doing this. So that's a great question. The other is that we work with small brands, but we also work with very large brands. So we're talking about that 10 minimum, but we're also working with when we don't disclose any brands that we work with unless they're on the awards list, but some of the larger ones on our awards list, Snap-on Tools, like we do large organizations, thousands of franchise owners and locations. But when Courtney was saying the sections, I just pulled up our data just to kind of give you an example. Marketing and technology are the 2 lowest scored by the industry. So looking across all types of brands. But there's also a ton of different information in the survey that's not necessarily things that you have to throw dollars at. One of the 4th, I think, lowest question rated is senior management involves franchisees in important company decisions. That is very easy to move with communication and transparency. Only so 44% of franchisees strongly agree with that statement. 31% rate that question neutral, which means you have this opportunity to just show your community the way that they're involved in how you make those decisions. I think, and I bring this up when we do results calls a lot, franchisors, their corporate teams are extremely busy. They do so much work to support the franchisees that the franchisees might never see. And they get so just in it and try and get stuff done that they don't take the time to really create kind of like an internal PR campaign to just give them, you don't want to get your franchisees totally lost in all the stuff that you're doing to grow the brand. The franchisee's job is to focus on what's inside their 4 walls, what's in their market. The franchisor's role is to really think about that macro level. But there's a way for you to tie the things that you're doing back to feedback you're getting from franchisees or what you're learning when you're visiting the people in the markets so that they feel ownership in the way that you're moving the brand forward or the way that you're focusing your time and your dollars and your energy at the corporate level. So I always say like this is a perfect example. Involving franchisees in decisions doesn't mean that they're driving your roadmap, but it does mean that they feel like your strategy is based on feedback or incorporates feedback. And the same thing too, franchisors can get stuck in going to the same people in the franchise community to get feedback or to tap them to test things. And you just get so much more credit when you involve more people. So making sure you're thinking about the little guy, the large player, the new people in the system, the people in the small markets, just showing the ways that you're trying to incorporate that because the franchise model is supposed to work anywhere that you drop it. So if you are only focused on your huge multi-unit owners, you're missing an opportunity because if you want to go into other markets, it doesn't always happen on that scale.
Cool. And so from a workplace culture, ever evolving, what would you say top level are employees and employers versus each other? What are they looking for?
So I was going to say, we also do the employee feedback too. And I think that's a different model from franchisee and franchisor culture that you're creating. The employee and employer model is where you can go to those very in-depth questions. I think a lot of people understand your manager will make or break that that experience for the employee. So if you are only at an executive team level talking to the people that directly report to you, you're missing that layer of how their people feel about them. And so it's really important that you know what the experience of your employees are, and that you're also taking the time to coach the leadership skills and the business skills for the people that are taking care of your people. So I think that's on the employee side. It's really important to understand not just what that experience is, but that you are responsible for leveling up your employees and giving them those opportunities to grow professionally or personally within your organization, Or if you don't have opportunity for them to continue growing, how are you helping them for their next role, their next company, and setting them up for success when they leave you? So I think that's it. And then I would also just say, when you're thinking about the franchisee franchisor relationship and the culture you create, it's not the same as employees. These are people that have invested a lot of money and put all of their life savings or their equity on the line to be part of your system. You owe them a lot more than just asking them if they would recommend you to others. So it is a much different relationship in the way you measure it versus an employee who you are paying to do the work, who is showing up to be part of your brand. You want to tie them to your culture and your mission and your vision, but it's a different relationship and a different culture that you're creating between the two levels of hierarchy.
So tell us about the workplace, like the at work awards or surveys.
Courtney, you want to do that?
Yeah. So one of my favorite things, but yeah, so we started working, doing employee engagement surveys, right? And so it could be at the corporate headquarter levels with the franchisor brand, but we also do it down to the unit level as well. And so with that, we have a employee engagement survey, kind of like the same thing as a franchisee survey where it's standardized, but it also is getting all of that information in an anonymous way, confidential way that we work with HR leaders, ops leaders, C-level to look at this in a way of how are we retaining our best talent, and looking at that as they need a place to voice their concerns, just like the franchisees, but it's also what are we doing about it and how often are we asking our employees for feedback? And it's not just a one and done. It is something that we need to constantly be aware of, whether it is those pulse check-ins throughout each quarter, but also just doing it in an annual way where we can get that feedback loop. What's awesome about our program too, and I get excited about, is that we're, if not, I think probably the only company that does this in the franchising space. So we are the only one where it's more apples to apples. We only do this employee engagement survey with those franchise brands. So when you're surveying your employees, you can also see that confidential benchmark, right? So you can see how all the other franchise brands are related to you and those questions that we're asking. And then of course, everyone loves awards like FBR awards. So we do have our franchising at work awards too. And it is looking at, again, that survey piece. So if you are rated high, if your employees are happy and satisfied, it is just icing on the cake that you can also use. And we talked about validation and we talked about using data to attract candidates on the franchisee survey side. But this is also a way to get new talent, and bring this to maybe employees that you really want to bring on to your team, and your highest rated areas and what's working really well for your brand at that corporate level. But then also now, if you are in the running too with those awards, it's just a great thing to also attract top talent. Why should you work with us instead of maybe a competitor in the same space? So it's just really getting ahead of that too, and that sense of transparency, again, which we're passionate about in all franchising, not just with the franchisee side, but also employee. So I think there's a lot of different shifts in workplace with different generations and what's important to each person. And so it's just really cool to see how that does change. But as you're having those conversations internally and to keep everyone engaged or to the best of your ability. And I think what Michelle says is true, is that, if we can't help you grow within this organization, I care about you as a person. And, if it's not a right fit, maybe we find something else. But that's what's so special about the franchising industry is I think we all kind of come together and say, people move a lot. There's a lot of different moving pieces, and it's just kind of fostering those relationships to make each other better.
What are some of the things that you're seeing of things that have changed, especially most recently, like either from an employer perspective or an employee perspective? What are the kind of like the hot topics right now?
Yeah. So, well, one, I was also going to say too, this is a great way to kind of walk the walk and to do this with your own employees, because you should be asking your franchisees to survey their employees. I think it remains a high concern for franchisees and most business owners that they can't staff, that they're having issues finding great people for their teams, and you can't grow if you don't have people in place to help you do that. So if you as a franchise network have not encouraged your franchisees or done the survey work, the employee survey work with them, because you're concerned about joint employer, because you don't want to cross a line, it is a missed opportunity because you can create these benchmarks for your brand. And now you're giving franchise owners employee data from businesses just like theirs. So they can identify how does my organization stack up to others within the same brand, running the same business, needing the same types of people on staff. And how do you identify the people that have really gotten it right in those franchise organizations that they can all learn from? So I would say more people are doing work with their employee surveys in different ways, whether it's with us or internally. But I think you have to put the joint employer concerns aside. This is the power of franchising, that you can give your business owners so much like information about other people doing the same thing. That's what makes them stronger. So I think that's one thing to change. I think what we're also seeing is people are over this. If you're not a brick and mortar, need to have people in front, this hybrid conversation remote, it's kind of like people are just over it. I think that they've established stuff that works or don't work, but that they just, it is a endless conversation of how you accommodate people to make sure you have the right people for your business. That's over with. I just wanted to look up the high and low data on the employee side. This is all done in real time. So what employees in franchising are rating really well, and we do this work across with franchisee organizations, franchisor, suppliers. What I'm looking at is the corporate level. So this would be franchisor corporate offices, supplier corporate offices. This is not employees that are working in franchise locations. Highest is that they rate their experience as a good fit for what they were hired for. And that communication is really good internally within corporate teams. I think that's a huge shift and that's gotten better. What's lowest rated is that they don't feel that they're fairly compensated. So I think that has also been a long-term lower scoring question for us. That has not changed over the years.
And so I think a lot of just on a side thought, a lot of people don't know. One of the things that we do with this podcast, and we just did it for the first time, was we actually email it out to 13,000 industry people that are all in franchising. So all of our listeners are franchisors or work for a franchise, and that's who we're trying to target. So this is great information. Who can we shed some light on who are some of the tops, or where can they find the top guys that win the awards?
Those are going to be coming out this summer. I think it's end of July it comes out. So you'll have that fresh data, and we put out an industry report that we make available to everybody. So even if you didn't take part in our survey work, we'll share out the findings that we found, and the report is being written right now. That'll have the award winners, but it'll also talk about trends. So, and we make that available to everybody so you can share that with your whole audience.
Love it. Yeah, that way they can all see who's there and who they need to compete with and step it up. I think that's great.
Yeah. And I think that's what's really important too. And I think that's what the suppliers and the people that you guys are talking to and in this podcast specifically, we all want to just see franchise related companies succeed and do things right. So it is important to share information out that will help all organizations, whether they're FBR clients or not, because we need to get our house in order. We need to take care of our people so that we keep government out of stepping in to put rules around how we do that. This is what's right for your business. This is what's right for your people. So let's get it together. And I think we focus a lot here on how do we shed light? We love celebrating the people that are doing things great, but how do we shed light on the people that aren't great for franchising, that have acquisition mode in mind just for that churn and that sell versus building a brand that's sustainable and helping people make money in their local communities doing something that they love. So we constantly talk about the people that we know that aren't doing things well, that are cutting services to their franchisees, that don't take into consideration the success of their existing franchisees. They're just focused on that next one. And we've just chosen, we're not here to call people out on it. We're just going to keep shining a light on the people that are doing it well.
So all of this comes back to, I think, operations, right? And
well, I mean, it's both. Yeah, it's both. I
Yeah.
think, there's a huge conversation now. Everybody's talking about what responsible franchising is, and it does start with the development team as far as making sure that the expectation you're setting with candidates is the experience that they'll have. But I think it's more than just operations or just development. It's really about tying the goals of your development and your operations teams together more, really aligning them and holding them accountable to know what the other person is promising, to know what the other person is delivering. And I know I bring them up a lot, but Wild Birds Unlimited is a great team in that if they have a head of development that is out in the markets and is tying back to the operations team what they're seeing in stores, that they're also understanding how to adjust what they're selling to prospects based on what's happening in the markets. So I think it's gotten better. The silos between development, marketing, and operations is definitely better. But I think when you look at corporate teams outside of franchising, those operations and development teams are much more aligned.
So tell us in your spare time what FBR is doing with the Operations Summit.
All of our spare time that we have. Yeah. So I'll jump in here, but we are going to Denver this year for the 3rd annual FBR Operations Summit. So we are so excited. And it's October 22nd through the 24th. It is open for anyone in operations, even my favorite FBCs, and franchisees will also be there too. We have an awesome guest keynote speaker, Antonio McBroom, who is a multi-unit franchisee of Ben & Jerry's. And so super excited to just hear his side, no BS, what worked best for him, how he wants to be supported. But that's what we're looking at for this FBR Summit is all operations talk. But I really do want to go back to also just realigning that dev and even marketing and operations. So I've had a couple of people on dev and marketing saying, hey, can I come to the summit? Because they want to learn, because if they're marketing and selling everything within this brand, it is just so nice to have that alignment because it just makes everyone's life easier. And it's just, I love to see that whole synergy just come together. But yeah, so super excited about Op Summit. But Michelle, I don't know if you have anything else to say on that other than I'm just jazzed up about this.
Yeah. And I always say, I'm like, if you've gone to your development, your Let's Grow event, we're the operations version of it. So you guys have the dev and marketing, but it's designed to be really interactive and also too, the work. So Courtney is on the women's franchise committee for IFA now. I came off of that, but we've taken all the work that they do for their annual conference, and that's translated into our event where we want to put people on stage that we know have good process and good relationships with their franchisees. So you will not see anyone on stage that we haven't vetted and done this work with. So we know that they are in the right seat to give you advice on how things are working in their organization. That's a really big thing for us. The second is that we embrace diversity. We want people on that panel that you are not seeing on what the franchise event circuit. So we really try and put new voices, new faces up there to just diversify the conversation and the ideas and share that out. So it's a very collaborative event. And I think it's very similar to your Let's Grow event, just in size and in energy. That's what we try to do.
I'm registered again and I'm excited.
Yeah. And also too with the suppliers, I think it's the same thing. The supplier sponsors are partners. Same thing with vetting them, right? So it's really understanding how they're going to help these operational leaders and making sure that they can have time with them too. But it's really just improving their life, their brands, their standards, their procedures, how they're supporting their franchisees. So really understanding that it's quality that we're looking for and that we want people to walk away with, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm going to say because I come from the marketing perspective, and I'm going to go back to what you just said, Courtney, about the operations and marketing being more aligned, because the operations, the FBCs are out there, business coaches, however you refer to them, but they're out there, but a lot of them don't understand marketing. And so they're feet on the street with the franchisee. And then when the franchisee is complaining about marketing and the operation, or their business coach doesn't understand the marketing tactics, then it's kind of becomes 2 against 1, and that becomes a problem. So having a better alignment between marketing and operations, I think, is huge. So I
100%.
love that you guys are making that an effort.
Yeah. And we also we embrace the thought leadership that suppliers offer to franchising. They have a macro level. They work with tons of clients versus just being stuck in that one
Yes.
brand. So we do embrace that and just really celebrate our sponsor partners. We have 4 tech partners that are doing a session together, and they are all working together to create best practices for franchise brands. So I think that's also the first time. I just asked if they would be willing to work with each other and present it more educational thought leadership for franchises. And they were all like, heck yeah, we're in. Like
That's cool.
these are 4 competitors planning this session together and this content. And I'm just really happy for that. Like franchise, it's like free advice. Just come and get that free advice.
Yes, that's great.
Love it. I was just thinking, where does the technology fall? But I guess if anywhere, it's going to fall in operations, right? So
Yeah. Well, it crosses everything. It touches everything.
yeah, but salespeople are always right. So yeah. I'm just kidding. So where do we find out more information? Where do people get in touch? Where do they go? How do they find out more about the conference?
You just try and not see us on social media. We are on LinkedIn, FBRsummit.com, franchisebusinessreview.com. I'm not sure that there's anyone in franchising that is easier to get in touch with than the FBR team.
Just send us a smoke signal. We'll find you.
Yep.
I'm wearing my franchise rockstar shirt.
That's right. Love it. I love
But
it.
before we go, I want to hear excuses that people have for not using your survey.
I don't even know if it's specific to not using our survey, but
True.
I'll start with one of my favorite one. We'll do like rapid fire.
Okay.
We can go back and forth.
Okay.
We've got a lot of change going on.
Ah.
We can't get feedback right now because we got a lot of change going on. Yeah, that's called business. That's
Right.
franchising. You should
always have change going on.
have change going on. That's a big one.
Yeah.
What's one of your favorites?
Oh, money, budget always. And I was just like, I can't. Our survey, our average survey work is like $5,500 and it's an annual thing. And I was just like, no, I see how much money you spend on everything else. And I was like, we can break up the payments for you. Like, we're very flexible here. And also you can use it in every department, just like we were talking. It does not have to fall on development or operations. Like, this is a marketing tool. You can use this in your org charts. Like, there's so many different ways, operations, marketing, development. But yeah, that always comes back to me. And I was just like, no.
Yeah. Just real quick, think about the optics when you're on social media in your fancy cars in your third home and you can spend $5,000 to get feedback from your franchise owners.
Yeah.
That doesn't make your franchisees feel very good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other good ones?
I'm gonna say too, or they do it internally, which I love that, which is great too. But then they'll say we want to wait, 18 months or another year or 2 years to run the survey, and I was just like, that's so. Like Michelle was just saying, there's so much change happening all the time. The longer you wait, they're just like, no, now it's not a good time. Like there's too many things happening, whatever. No, you just need to establish that routine because it's going to help you. But yeah, it's just, no, we're going to wait.
It's like waiting to get married until you have like everything in order.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's never going to happen.
It's going to be perfect.
Good luck.
No.
Good
Yeah.
luck.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Marriage.
All right. Love you guys.
Very good.
Thanks so much for chatting with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for
guys.
everything. You have
Awesome.
been mentioned on every podcast so far. And even the
We have-
mastermind.
We have the best clients in the whole
We do.
world because
We
they
do.
get it. These are the people that care about their people. Like that's it. Even
Yeah.
if their scores are bad, they're asking the questions. So we're really fortunate in that. And we are grateful for any client that shares their experience with others.
Yep.
That's great.
You get it. You get it.
Yeah.
Love you.
Right.
We love franchising.
Guys, rock stars.
There we
There
go.
it is. There it is.
Mine doesn't
FranchiseBusinessReview.com, folks.
All right,
so
guys.
much.
awesome.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
That was amazing. Thanks again, Michelle and Courtney. You guys are fantastic. And I know we call a lot of people our favorites, but you guys are absolutely favorites. And so thank you very much for coming on. So, everyone else, if you like what you heard, as I always say, very important to give us a 5-star review. It really helps us grow. Subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, wherever you're watching us. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks with more unfiltered news and education from both sides of the border. In the meantime, here's what's on the calendar in our final segment, Franchise Mingle, brought to you by the National Franchise Show and eventually by www.franchisemingle.com. We're going to get that up there. If you have ideas for that, let me know. But please save the date for the fall franchise shows. We have Tampa and Philadelphia in September, Atlanta and Jacksonville in October, and Los Angeles in November. If you are a franchisor and growing in those markets and want qualified leads, please feel free to reach out and we will connect you with the individuals that run those events. We also have, of course, the IFA Advocacy Summit in September, Franchise Springboard, a fan favorite for sure in September, FBR's Operations Summit in October, and as I said earlier in the podcast, Let's Grow Canada, now taking registrations and sponsorships for November 6th and 7th. Super excited about that. And finally, save the date for Let's Grow Dallas on February 2nd through to the 4th. Registration is now open, and we are also taking on sponsorships.
Woohoo! All right. This episode is brought to you by Tenant Financial Group, Northeast Color, the National Franchise Show, and Franchise Assembly. See you in a couple weeks.
Bye.
Bye.